Good morning. It's December 28th. It's 9:42 in the morning here in western Iowa. A lot going on. We had dense fog outside right now. I went to the lake and took some pretty pictures, but we have so much else going on. I'm not even going to show them to you today. Let's jump right in. Well, let me tell you first what we're going to talk about. There's severe weather today, a dangerous situation in the south, and already tornado watches are up, and some severe thunderstorm warnings are ongoing right now. Also, very cold air is coming, but how cold, we'll show that to you here shortly. So January is looking to be very different, and winter will make a return with vengeance for at least the northern plains into the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast. Out there right now, here are your anomalous temperatures, and we are above average pretty much the entire country right now. And the current temperatures look like this. I mean, we have those 40s going all the way into Michigan, 50s all the way into Michigan, through Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee. And then you see 60s down there, even a couple 70s in Texas, Louisiana, and across the southeast. A little cooler as you get into the mid-Atlantic, and some of that cold air hanging in there, northern New England. And it's cold, northern plains, and in the Rockies, but still above average for this time of year. But by January 8th, at noon, according to the GFS, we'll have 20s to near 30 all the way down into Arkansas, northern Mississippi, mid-Atlantic, and further to the north, 20s here in Iowa, teens up there in Minnesota and Wisconsin. However, much difference on the European. You ready? You sitting down? This is what the European says. For the exact same day at the exact same time. This is the 8th at noon. According to the European, we have teens all the way down into central Texas with negative temperatures in Kansas. Teens below zero. These are actual air temperatures. It's not wind chill. Teens below zero for Iowa into the Dakotas, and 20s below zero Minnesota. And so this is a much different solution. So 8 o'clock, or January 8th at noon, GFS. January 8th at noon, European. One of them's way wrong. And we will see, and we will keep you posted to see if we get model agreement. They're having a tough time handling this cold air that is coming. Meanwhile, during the same period, this is an experimental product from the National Weather Service, the risk of heavy snow from January 4th through the 10th. And from the 4th through the 7th, that's northern Idaho, Montana, all the way into Ohio, including Michigan, the Great Lakes, Midwest Plains. And then the 7th through the 10th, we've got West Virginia up through most of New England. So at least a slight risk, 20 to 40% chance of heavy snow in these areas. So again, looks like winter's coming. Exactly how it's going to look remains to be seen, and we will keep you posted. Meanwhile, severe weather today. We already have a tornado watch in effect, East Texas into Louisiana and Mississippi. We also have a severe thunderstorm watch north of that for North Texas into Arkansas, the Arklatex. Dense fog all the way up here, and also parts of Georgia into Florida. A little bit of ice up there in New England, enough for a winter weather advisory. In the west, don't forget the west, we have a storm system moving in. Could see some flooding along the coast, Northern California, Southern Oregon. Snow in the Cascades, winter storm watches, and winter storm warnings when you get further inland into Utah and into Wyoming and parts of Idaho, with winter weather advisories as well. And then we have wind advisories, high wind warnings, high wind warnings, and wind advisories, those two things, across parts of the west with wind issues. Severe today. I mean, this is a moderate risk, Louisiana into Mississippi. The enhanced risk gets into East Texas, where storms are going right now. And then the slight risk gets even into southern Tennessee near Memphis. So tornado risk, this is what I'm most worried about. I don't know if worried's the right word, but you definitely want to be paying attention in this area, and I know you are. So the hatched area, that's those crisscross lines, all the way from East Texas into Alabama. The 10% is the yellow, and so the hatched area means a potential for some large tornadoes, and the 15% risk, Louisiana, Mississippi, and a little bit of Alabama, again with the risk of some large tornadoes. So the 5% risk outside of that, outside of the hatched area, but still be on the lookout for maybe some spin-ups tomorrow. Severe weather moves to the mid-Atlantic, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, and even some isolated tornadoes possible here. Just a 2% risk in the green and a 5% risk in the brown. So be on your guard in these areas tomorrow. 48-hour precipitation. It's going to be a lot with those big thunderstorms, big hail possible, damaging winds possible, heavy rain possible. Could see 2 to 3 inches northern Louisiana into Arkansas, parts of Mississippi up into Tennessee. That also goes for you, Alabama. And then, as things shift eastward tomorrow, could see very heavy rain in the mountains of North Carolina. Those folks have suffered enough. Maybe a couple inches of rain down in the lower elevations in North Carolina into Virginia. Meanwhile, in the west, heavy rain, Northern California, Southern Oregon, and could be heavy snow in the mountains. Here's where the snow will be. And we're talking 1.5 to 2 foot plus totals for the Cascades of Washington. A little less pronounced in the Cascades of Oregon, but still. And the mountains of Idaho, my goodness, again, 2-3 feet of snow possible. And same for the mountains of Wyoming and near Yellowstone, even into Colorado and Utah, some heavy snow and lighter snow as you get into the plains in Montana. Surface today. There's the mess in the west. Heavy snow possible, heavy rain possible, Oregon and California. Rain or snow otherwise. There's your big severe risk area. Severe thunderstorms possible again, East Texas through Alabama. Heavy rain possible, flash flooding perhaps, East Texas into Tennessee and Kentucky. Arkansas, you're included in all of that as well. And then further to the north, it's maybe some ice in New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire. Surface tomorrow, the ice risk moves into northern Maine. The severe risk moves into the mid-Atlantic down into Georgia, with thunderstorms down into Florida and all the way up into Pennsylvania, Ohio. In the west, heavy snow continues in the higher elevations, rain or snow otherwise. Heavy rain, Oregon and California coast. And on Monday, a little bit of relief in the west, but still heavy snow possible. Idaho into Montana, parts of Washington state. We're watching a system that's going to bring snow to South Dakota and parts of Nebraska, and rain and snow for Iowa and eastern Nebraska. Will we see accumulating snow here in western Iowa? It's going to be close. It's going to start as rain. It's going to mix with or change to snow. And we'll talk about that more when we go through the GFS model. Rain in the Midwest, rain in the Great Lakes, mixing with snow, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, and rain along the eastern seaboard. All right, let's take a look at that GFS model. We are starting this morning. This is 9 a.m., so about almost an hour ago. And we're seeing severe thunderstorms already in East Texas and parts of Louisiana, and heavy rain in this area. This is our big area of concern. We have upper level low moving into very high dew points, warm, moist air. That air is going to be, we're going to have lots of wind shear. So changing wind direction and speed with height just gets some of those severe storms, those supercells. We could have some violent tornadoes with some of these today. And then large hail, also possibility, also some straight line winds, some bow segments. And when you see the line of thunderstorms bowing out, usually you have wind gusts maybe 80 miles an hour possible, some of these storms too. So just really be paying attention down here. We've got some snow in Wisconsin right now, and then rain and snow in the west. All right, let's move through today. We see our low moving into that warm, moist air. Storms, severe thunderstorms, supercells, isolated tornadoes, very heavy rainfall in the southeast as we go through the day today. Heavy rain for Oregon and California. Then as we go through, let's see, this gets us to midnight tonight. Tomorrow, the severe risk is shifting eastward. You could see a line of storms moving through Tennessee, parts of Kentucky, down into Georgia, into the Carolinas. So again, this is our severe risk tomorrow with some isolated tornadoes perhaps in this area. Very heavy rainfall in the mountains of North Carolina where they don't need that. Rain up here in the Great Lakes, so continuing with the warm weather. But we see some colder air moving south into the northern plains, the west with another storm system. As we get into Sunday, tomorrow, a little bit of snow back here in Michigan on the backside of the low. Ahead of the low, continuing with showers and thunderstorms, Pennsylvania all the way down through the Carolinas. Rain and snow, heavy snow in the west. It looks like Utah and Wyoming getting some heavy snow here. Also into Montana, into the plains. Our low lifts into Canada with some snow on the backside. Showers and storms here in, say, Long Island up into Connecticut and Massachusetts. And now we're starting to see our snowstorm forming as we get into Monday. This is noon Central Time on Monday. Snow, South Dakota, back into western Nebraska and also the Intermountain West. And as we go through time, you see this low bring in some rain to Missouri, Kansas, western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, changing to snow in central Nebraska. And as that low lifts, it stays all rain here in western Iowa. Now, the European model has a mix of rain and snow for Iowa and even down into Omaha in eastern Nebraska. So we'll see which one is right. Meanwhile, this low is bringing some more showers into, say, Kentucky, Illinois, moving into Indiana, maybe some heavy rain with that. Staying on the warm side, but you see the cold air now coming in behind that low. And we're not going to get above freezing here in western Iowa for probably 2 weeks, possibly. So once that low goes east, the cold air comes south. And then that could be pretty dramatic as we get later into January. This is the first day of the year. This is the morning, a mix of rain and snow in New England, cold air getting all the way down into Texas, through Memphis, and again, that cold air spreading. Another storm moving into the Pacific Northwest, rain and snow there. The snow levels look lower with this one down into Washington State and Oregon, but still rain along the coast. This gets us into Wednesday night, and see how far south that cold air is getting. This is the GFS, so this is the warmer of the two models, and that cold air getting all the way down into the south as we get into the second. We'll move a little faster now because we're getting into more uncertainty. And again, there's big disagreement with the models. But look at this. We're showing some snow down here. Kentucky, Tennessee, into Virginia. And that cold air going all the way down to the Gulf Coast as we go. And yeah, I think tomorrow I'll show you the European. And we'll see if the European is still as cold as it is today. But this cold air does dive southward into the east. And so at least the eastern third to half of the country on the cold side by the time we get into January 4th. Then another system moving here into the Great Lakes as we get into the 5th. And then more snow busting out in Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, into Tennessee and North Carolina even, and then more snow here in the plains. This is Kansas, Nebraska, as we get into the 6th. And how far south will it go? Kansas looks like a decent snowstorm if this comes true. Snow getting into Oklahoma, Arkansas, the Texas Panhandle, into the northern South Plains. I'm looking at you, Plainview. Even down near Dallas, snow on the 7th, across Tennessee, into North Carolina, Virginia, and even into Arkansas. And that looks to be like kind of a southern snowstorm. If this comes true, Tennessee, you're going to get some snow. Same for Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia, and North Carolina. Now my cousin watches, and he's telling me to keep my snow north. Sorry, cuz, but it's a forecast. It may not come true. You know how that works. All right, some heavy rain, Mississippi. Cold air all the way down into central Texas now. This is the 8th that we showed you. And look at that mess. South Carolina ice, North Carolina ice turning to snow. Snow in Virginia, West Virginia, back into Kentucky and Tennessee. cold air all the way down to the Gulf Coast through central Texas, and just hanging out with the cold air eastern half of the country as we get into the 9th and the 10th, and another area of snow moving into Kentucky, even Tennessee, even northern Alabama. Again, looks like a cold time of it, winter making a return. All right, back to New Year's Day. This is our snow on the ground at noon, New Year's Day. This is the European. So the difference in the models, keeping us all rain here in western Iowa on the GFS. The European has it changing to snow with maybe an inch or two on the ground. And maybe an inch of snow on the ground near Omaha. Greater amounts, though, as you head into South Dakota, northern Nebraska. But you see, I mean, not much snow on the ground for New England. You have to go way up into northern, upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Kind of crazy. The West has a lot of snow on the ground, except for the smiley face in Idaho. 8 to 14-day temperatures, again, that cold air coming at least to the eastern half of the country from the 4th through the 10th, and that's reflected here. And precipitation-wise, our best chance for above average precipitation up in the northern plains and along the Gulf Coast. Near normal precipitation in the Midwest does not mean no snow. It's supposed to snow this time of year, so we might see some snow, or we might see some heavy snow if this comes true, the experimental product from the National Weather Service with a 20 to 40% chance of heavy snow in these areas. So severe weather today, be on the lookout. I'm afraid there's going to be some big tornadoes today, and even damaging hail and damaging winds. And then it's going to turn cold and maybe winter making a return. So we'll keep you posted as we go, as the models figure this out. And we'll see you again tomorrow right here on the Weather Mic. Thanks for tuning in.